understand the whole thing. So welcome. Allow me to do the presentation now. Yes, thank you so much. I think we are now good. Allow me to ensure that everything is ready and that we are in a position to proceed without any disturbance. So thank you so much, and welcome to this part of the class. This is blockchain technology for food systems. And this is part A of this class, or part one of this class. We are going to have this class in two parts. That means we are going to have this class this week, and a day will agree probably next week, so that at least we can have it part A this week, part B next week, so that we can be able to understand. Today's class is probably to introduce to you, because probably when I was doing my own research, I felt like the best thing to do under blockchain technology class is to first be able to talk about what blockchain is and understand the whole system of blockchain. And then we can now, in the part B of this class, be able to link blockchain and food systems, so that as we continue, because probably some of you understand now that this is a series of master classes. We'll be having about 5 master classes, but the first master class and the second master class, which is today and next week, is only on the first part, on the blockchain technology for food systems. We will continue until such a time we can be able to say we can easily have blockchain in our systems without any much issue. So welcome. Allow me to, sorry, let me fix up this. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Good. Welcome to this class. For those who are new here, my name is Ruth Onesmus, and I'm the founder and the lead trainer, Reno Agri Foods. We have other trainers with us. We have Eric and William also in this class. So thank you so much, my good friends, for being part of this class. But for today's class, I'll be able to take the lead throughout the class. So yeah, welcome. So food systems, by now, one thing you should know is food systems fail. That is not a question of what if or of any other thing. It fails. One way or another, food systems have a way of failing. Our current food systems are not perfect. But where does this food system fails is because of one thing: trust. This thing we refer to as trust. And food systems fail where trust is needed, but the actors cannot be trusted fully. Because in most of the things we are doing, sorry, just a moment, there's someone who has not yet received the link and they are texting me up. Sorry for that. Sorry for that. Just a moment. Sorry, I did share a wrong link. Yes. Sorry, need to apologize. I think I sent a wrong link somewhere. Probably, I hope I've corrected it to everyone. Thank you. So I was saying systems fails because people who should be trusted are not trustworthy. Or the people who are running our systems, we need to trust them, but they are not trustworthy. So across Africa, we don't lose food only because of poor productions, because that is where most people say a lot of food loss happens. But we lose food, we lose markets, and we lose trust because we cannot prove what happened, where it happened, and who is responsible for what happened. So this is where the big problem is. One, we cannot ascertain what happened. Number two, we cannot know where the problem in the food chain happened. And we cannot be able to put blame to anyone. That is why our food systems fail. So this is one of those things. It's very important for us to make to sorry. It's very important for us to mention that in as much as the food systems fail, we need to understand what are these things we are talking about which fails and needs something to be done. Number one, the key challenges in the value chain. One, a rampant spread of aflatoxins, outbreaks in maize, medical adulteration scandals, export rejections due to residual traceability caps, and fake organic or origin claims. Now, one thing you should realize, there are a lot of challenges that are in the food chain, which actually we are trying as much as possible to eradicate those challenges. But these challenges, where it happened, how it happened, and who is responsible, we do not know. That is the biggest challenge. The challenge is not the aflatoxin. The challenge is not the milk adulteration. But where did this happen in the value chain? Who is responsible for the adulteration? At what point in the value chain did the adulteration happen? If it's about export rejections, the problem is not about rejections, but where is the problem? Where did the problem start? Who is responsible? Is it the farmer? Is it the transporter? Is it the person handling the other aspects of in the value chain? That is the biggest problem. The problem happens. The people who are responsible needs to be trusted, but we do not trust them. That is why there needs to be a solution to all these challenges. This is not a production problem. For example, aflatoxin, milk adulteration, fake organic or origin claims, those is not a problem. It's not a problem of that originated all the way from production. But it is something that happened in between production and the final consumption, in between production and the final destination where the product is going. So along the way, there is a problem that is happening. That is why there must be trust and verification. There is trust and verification problems in the value chain, which we need to sort them out. So the essence of this class is to be able to introduce to you how technology is trying to solve the problem of trust and verification, because that is where the biggest problem is. Milk adulteration, where did it happen? Who is responsible? And why did it happen? So that is where now the whole thing of blockchain comes in. So I'm sorry, I don't know why it's happening that I'm trying to move to the next page, but it's having a challenge. But it's all right, I'll be able to navigate that. But where did we break where trust breaks in the African value chains? Or where at what point did we say that we've lost trust in the value chain? Number one, we have fragmented value chains in Africa. Like movement of goods, it takes a long period of time, or it takes a lot of actors in between producer and the final consumer. There is a very long period. There are a lot of people involved in between. That is why we say fragmented value chains. That is the biggest problem we're having. That is where, because the chain is very long, the aspects of trust comes in. Not everyone in the value chain is trustworthy. That is why we're having counterfeit goods. That is why we are having adulteration happening. That is why we are having food fraud happening, because of the long chains. Number two, low trust among the actors or between the actors. Between the farmer, the transporter, and the cooling plant and the processor, they don't trust one another. There is no trust in the system. So because there is no trust in the system, there will be always a blame game. The processor will say it's the cooperative. The cooperative will say it's the transporter. The transporter will say it is the farmer. That is how there is trust issues between the actors. Number three, Our systems are paper-based, or they are what we refer to as sealed records. Like the one we are having as records, the farmer keeps their own records, the transporter keeps their own records, the processor keep their own records. So how do we trust records that you are keeping them on paper? You go when you are signing in, you are writing on papers. Once that book is filled, you can never trace it back. In case there is any issue, there is no traceability happening. That is why it's important to talk about the things we are talking about today. And the third and the fourth reason where, or the fourth point at which we break trust in the African value chains is because of high compliance pressure. We need to comply. That is the only thing. You are told you must have this. They don't care how you will get it, but they just want you to have it. So that high compliance pressure, the regulators want compliance, but they do not give us a way in which we can be able. So that is why most people tend to do their own things to ensure that the food or the products comply to the requirements, the final requirements. But how you produce, how you do the other things doesn't comply. That is what we mean when we say there is a lot of trust issues. For example, the value chain, it moves from the farmer to the aggregator, to the trader, to the processor, to the regulator, finally to the market. All these ones, the chain is very long. The value chain is long. And each actor in this value chain gives their own form of records. Each actor gives their own version of the truth. Because here, nobody wants to say, the farmer keeps their own records. Every morning when a farmer sends gives out milk to the processor, they write their own records somewhere. The aggregator also does their own records. The trader makes their own records. The processor keeps their own records. The regulator keeps their own records. And the market also have a way of keeping its own records. That is why today, even if we say we are having 5.1 billion liters annually in Kenya, we cannot be able to prove that that is really the real factor, because the farmer has their own records, because the farmer produced, but these records cannot be accessed by the market. It cannot be accessed by the regulator. It cannot be accessed by the person who is giving us that record. That is why in the African food systems, data exists. Data is there, but trust in that data is not there. We do not trust our systems, because how do you know that along the way things happened exactly as you wanted and you cannot be able to prove? That is why it's important for us to discuss something we refer to as blockchain technology. But what is this thing? We call it blockchain. That is why in this class today, we need to really understand and be able to set up systems and be able to understand and give our minds on what really blockchain is. Before when we talk about blockchain in food systems, we really need to understand what blockchain is, so that as we move closer towards now using blockchain in the food systems, we understand what exactly we are dealing with. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this class on blockchain technology. And the first thing is, blockchain is not a solution to the problems we are facing. Blockchain does not solve the food safety issues. I need to make that very clear. I'm not giving you a solution to the food safety, food fraud, or compliance issues. But blockchain is a trust infrastructure. Blockchain is something that helps us be able to keep trust, or be able to ensure that the system is trustworthy. That whatever you are having is the same thing that the farmer despises. That whatever we are exporting is the same thing that that farmer gave out initially. That there is nothing that happens along the way which is missed, or there is nothing that we can be able to say that this one we do not we were not able to see when it happens. It's blockchain. Blockchain is a digital ledger. That's a very big word I need to have in mind. A ledger. This is what most definition says, that a blockchain is a digital ledger spread across thousands of computers with transactions recorded on blocks. Another very key word, blocks, linked together with cryptographic proof. Even if I give you these definitions, it's so hard for you to be able to understand and be able to really understand what blockchain is. If just this is how to define blockchain, then probably 90% of us might not really get what blockchain is. Blockchain is a digital ledger. But first, what's a ledger? Tuanzie hapo tuanze kuongeleshana pole pole. What's a ledger? What's a block? What is cryptographic proof? What are transactions? Because all these, when we understand these different words, that's different terminology that has been used, it helps us to understand what blockchain is. But first, I want you to even think of a block and then a chain. These two words, block and then chain. What's a block and then what's a chain? But first, let's start by defining what what a ledger is, because that's the first word, a digital ledger. But what's a ledger? Tracy, let me start with you today. Tracy, hapa ndo maswali inaanza kuja pole pole tu, hatuna haraka. Tracy, what's a ledger?
Hmm. Okay. I know it's a legal document.
It's a document.
Mm.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
Your
I can't
business
think
class.
further.
Yeah, nothing further. Okay, yeah, that is a good try. Actually, maybe I didn't say in this class it's okay not to know. So it's perfectly okay not to know. Uh-huh. Let me ask Dorcas. Dorcas, good evening, Dorcas. What's a ledger? Still, yeah, in this word, ledger. What is it? And if you wish to answer, you can also as well put your hand up. But before then, um, Dorcas, listening. Okay, okay. Dorcas not in a position to speak. Stephen, Stephen Kariuki,
Yes,
Kiongozi, what do you think is a ledger?
maybe from the school of business, a ledger, it's more of like maybe a book, maybe a permanent book that
A book
records and make
mhm,
sure
that records what?
something finances. Okay, something of sort.
Finance.
Not sure about that. Yep.
Thank you so much. Let's give Stephen a round of applause. That's a good definition. Um, what is that? Is exactly what I could expect anyone to give me as a definition for this. So a ledger is a database. I want you to mark this word. It's a database. A Google sheet or an Excel is like, okay, it's like, oh, book of financial transactions are recorded in a ledger. Thank you so much, Eric. A ledger is like a database where you keep records of some things. It's like a Google sheet where you're having this column, this, the next, this one, this one. You see? Or a spreadsheet. Yeah? Where you are by appending subsequent an execution of state of a computer that is a ledger that is like if you're using a digital tool, it has some memory, like it has an ability to remember something you've done, or even something you can be able to say, like when you are doing when you're using on a spreadsheet, you need to add up the things. So it has an ability to execute some program or some tasks. That's what a ledger is. A database, a Google Sheet, or an Excel where you record information. It's a record of transactions. It gives you some information about the things that are happening. For example, maybe who, maybe the name, what that person owns, and the amount their balances. Such kind of a thing. That is what a ledger could in simple terms be. Now, a general, okay, this is kind of something online. We can be able to find a general definition of what a general ledger is. A general ledger is a comprehensive accounting record that contains all the financial transactions of a business. A general ledger is a comprehensive accounting record that contains all the financial transactions of a business. All the financial transactions. That is what a ledger is. But in this case now, it contains all transactions, be it monetary or non-monetary, because we are saying blockchain is a digital ledger. So aren't you assume a book? Do not think it's a book. Aren't you to assume an online book? And we have different types of ledger. We have asset ledger to keep assets, liability ledger for aspect to deal with liabilities, equity ledger, revenue ledger, expense ledger. You can give as many ledgers as possible. These were expenses, for example, when every time you spend something, what did you buy? At what price? Who sold it to you? And any other thing. Revenue is amount of money coming in. Those are the revenue ledger. So a ledger is something basically that brings about the several other things. So remember, blockchain, let me still go back to what a blockchain was. Sorry, just go back. Yes, a blockchain is a digital ledger spread across thousands of computers. A blockchain is a digital ledger spread across thousands of computers with transactions recorded on blocks linked together with cryptographic proof. Linked together. Blocks linked together with cryptographic proof. So I want us to still continue with our discussion and be able to understand blockchain technology now with at least the knowledge we've understood, slight knowledge we know about what blockchain is, because digital ledger and all that. So blockchain technology is a software, a protocol for secure transfer of unique instances. For example, money, for example, property, for example, contracts, and identity credentials via the internet. That is why we are saying a digital ledger. So this is where there is transfer, secure transfer of properties of value, instances of value, things of value. For example, money, property, contracts, identity credentials via the internet without requiring a third-party intermediary, such as a bank. For example, this now there is a word referred to as decentralized. It's a decentralized ledger. I don't know if we are still together. Thumbs up. Thumbs up if we are still together. Thank you. So we are saying this is a distributed ledger because we are talking about a ledger. There are different types of ledger. We have what referred to a centralized ledger and a distributed ledger. So blockchain is, in simple terms, referred to as a distributed ledger technology. For example, blockchain technology is a distributed ledger technology that uses independent digital records or digital systems to record, to share, and to synchronize transactions. One is to record, because you need to record it fast. then you share it, and then synchronize. That means be able to link it together with others, the details of which are recorded simultaneously on a multiple nodes on a system. For example, I want us to see the picture on our screen. I don't know, can you see the picture on the screen? Just confirmation that you can be able to see the screen. Thank you. So, just a moment. Yes, I need to. Yes, just need to change the internet provider. Thank you. So, in a distributed ledger, but before we talk about distributed, let's talk about centralized. This one, this first one. A centralized ledger is whereby there is an intermediary. A has to go through the bank to reach B, or B, C has to go through the government to reach D. So the government or the bank is acting as an intermediary. So between A and B, there is an intermediary. But for a distributed ledger, now in our second domain, for a distributed ledger, transactions happens from A to B to C to D without any intermediary. That is why we said, let me just go back to what we defined blockchain as. We define blockchain as the technology that has or a protocol for secure transfer of unique instances or things of value via the internet without requiring third-party intermediary, without requiring a third party, such as a bank or a government. So there is no third party here. If I want to go to Eric, I reach out to Eric. If I want to sell something to Eric, I go to Eric directly. I transfer something to Eric directly. So long as Tracy and William understands that I have enough balance to be able to transfer this money to Eric. That is what basically a distributed ledger technology could look like. So for our case, I don't want to talk about a token because just a token is just like a token is an entry of data. As you enter the data, that is like we are saying a token. I want to talk about these NFTs in our next class, that is next week, because what I'll be talking about NFTs, tokens, non-tokens, what are these things? Fungible and non-fungible tokens. But just know a distributed ledger can be used to identify ownership of both the non-fungible tokens and fungible tokens. And these ones, I'm going to explain these chunks in the next class when we'll be talking about what tokens are and how we are going to be able to use tokens in our systems. But today, I want us to concentrate more on understanding what blockchain. By now, you still do not know what blockchain is because what is still blockchain? We've talked about a ledger, like a distributed ledger. We do not need an intermediary. How do you have that in mind? Number one, we don't need an intermediary. Number two, there is the use of an internet to transfer. And then the other thing is there is some things of value that has to be transferred. I need to understand some of these things as we bring closer what it is, because there's a transaction, there is a record that has to take place. But this record needs no intermediary for transfer. These records requires the internet because this is a digital thing. So there is no physical location to say. A blockchain is a distributed digital ledger. We've said that of cryptographically signed transactions. And to understand what cryptography means, we're saying cryptographically signed transaction. What is this cryptographically signed transaction? That are grouped into blocks. I need to realize one is a ledger, two cryptographically signed transactions, and these transactions are grouped into blocks, and the block are linked to the previous block after validation. Hey. Distributed digital ledger. We've said distributed, that means there is no intermediary. Digital, that means we need to use the internet online. Ledger, because it is a transaction. And we say these transactions are of the things that are of value. And this one are cryptographically signed. I want us to understand what cryptography means, because cryptographically signed transaction is not any other transaction. What does that mean? Because these transactions have to be grouped into blocks. So before we ask ourselves what a block is, we need to understand what this cryptography is, because it helps us to understand the transactions. These transactions will be grouped together. So I want us to understand what the blocks first are, so that as we move to the next part, we know what exactly we are talking about. So, what is cryptography? Cryptography is a common A common cryptography definition is the practice of coding. Aya, aya. It is the practice of hiding information. Coding, ukisikia watu wanasema nafanya coding, they're just hiding information. Coding is basically another word for hiding. So, a cryptography is a practice of hiding information to ensure that only the person that a message was written for can read and process the information. Like if I'm writing to you an email, I'm writing it to Eric. Even though Tracy is on the email, Eric only can see that email because I have hidden it, because I'm directing it to Eric. Hello? So the practice of hiding information is what we refer to as cryptography. That is why you will hear the word encrypting and then decrypting. Encrypting means hiding, the act of hiding the information, so that only the person that the message was intended to can be able to read. So this is a cybersecurity practice known as cryptology that combines discipline like computer science, engineering, and mathematics. Like, for example, a password. A password is a kind of it's a cryptology anyway, because it's a way of hiding information that I'm sharing with you a document, but it's only you who have the password. If you do not have the password, you cannot open it. Hello? So the act of ensuring that you keep that content with the password is encryption. That is encryption. That is why as I send the message, I will ensure that I key in that password, so that as I send it via the internet, so in between there is the internet. As the receiver receives, the only thing he needs is that password. Because without the password, you cannot be able to decrypt. Encryption is the act of hiding. Description is the act of opening it up with a certain key, what we refer to as pass key, passwords. That is what cryptology is all about. So the transactions in blockchain is cryptographically signed. That means it is hidden by use of such cryptography things, which we are going to talk about. Those things, how do we hide information in how do we hide information as we transfer? Or how will we be moving information, for example, from the farmer all the way to the processor using some particular passwords? Because not everyone has to know what's happening. For example, farmer A does not have to get to know the records of farmer B. But farmer A, whenever they open the system, they can be able to see their own milk, but they cannot see the milk for the other farmer, because they only have a password that leads them to their own point. Okay, tuko pamoja? Just let me see. Okay. Someone is saying that they're not able to join the class, but it's all right. Thank you. So, what will make a record defensible even in a court? If today there is a court case, what is that thing that you will say? If I want to go and defend it, I can be able to easily defend it. What will make something defensible in a court today? I don't know. Anyone with an idea? I think Peter Wakahora, you wanted to be a lawyer when you grew up. I don't know if you are one today, but tell us, what do you think is that thing that can make something in a court you can be able to defend easily? Hiyo unasema nikienda kotini naweza defend. What makes something defensible? Peter. Peter. All right. Who? Zara. Oh, who is that? What's his name? Felix. Oh, Felix. Maybe we can start with Felix first. Felix.
Oh, okay. So what can okay.
Nataka ujidefend in any case. What is that thing that wasema hii nikienda kotini ni kitu inapita nayo?
I think kama niko na evidence, kama niko na evidence that it cannot be disputed, I'm good. And if maybe the person who accused me lacks evidence, or his evidence is not credible, kuna loopholes, then I can win.
One, umesema kitu moja, uko na evidence. So evidence is one of the things we need in a court, sindio? What else is that thing we need in a court to ensure that hii case inapita kupita? Felix, what's the other thing we need in a court?
Witnesses.
Perfect. We need witnesses. So for anything, for us, even in food science, you need to have evidence and witnesses. William, you want to add something?
No, not exactly. Yes.
Apart from those two, is there any other thing you feel like ukienda kotini leo unaweza pita na hiyo kesi vizuri?
Yes, unless you have exhibit.
The exhibit, which is the evidence.
Yeah, exhibit or an affidavit. Yes.
Thank you. Yes. So, what will make a record in a court today is when you have evidence. And apart from evidence is when you are having what we refer to as witness. Blockchain technology is exactly that. Blockchain technology is providing you with the evidence, because these records are cryptographically signed. That means you have the evidence. That is one. The transaction is cryptographically signed. And then number two is a distributed ledger. That means if it's a distributed, anyone within the chain has access to those records. And every time you do anything, you need to have something. So this one is what actually brings us to what blocks is all about. What are blocks in the blockchain? Because it's important for us to understand that blockchain is coming from two words: a block and a chain. There is some background noise. I don't know from who. Yes, I think it's now, okay? Yes, I was saying blockchain is coming from two words. And we've said a block and then a chain. But this, we said, is a cryptographically signed transaction grouped together in blocks. So the transactions is being grouped together in blocks. But what are blocks? A block is cryptographically secured data. Because now we say cryptology is the act of hiding. So we are hiding this data in a block. Structured that groups validate secure data, structured that groups validated transactions and links to the previous block, forming an immutable blockchain? One, validated transactions, because the transaction has to be validated. So that we say, Nikona evidence. You have to validate it. You have to provide evidence. So every transaction before it is posted, it has to be sent to somewhere. For example, if I want to sell something to William, I have to send it to first Stephen and ask Stephen, are you aware? Oh, okay, before I buy something from William, I will ask Stephen, are you aware that William has how much in the balance? Anaangalia, William akona $500,000. So he can easily transfer 200,000. So Stephen anasema hii transaction iko tick. Tracy anaangalia anasema hiyo iko tick. Dorcas anaangalia anasema hiyo iko tick. Then after everyone has validated it, then I can easily accept and William can now transfer. But without the validation, William cannot transfer. For example, if the farmer has some things, we need to know how much does the farmer has, so that as the person coming to buy from the farmer, I know exactly that the farmer has 50. So that if he wants to sell to me 51, I have to ask, where did the one come from? Yet the account balance is reading 50. So that is why blockchain comes in, so that it can be able to solve the trust issues. It is taking up the aspect of trust, so that by the time the transaction is happening, we understand that it is validated and it is truly the thing. And it has been linked to the previous. We are going to see how the link is coming, because linking is now the aspect of the chain. Because when it comes to blockchain, the chain now is because we are linking together several blocks, forming what we refer to as immutable blockchain. Immutable blockchain is unchangeable, tamper resistant. It is not tamper proof, it is tamper resistant. You cannot be able to change, because if you change, if William changes that he has 600,000, when the record Stephen is having says no, William does not have 600,000. Tracy, the record Tracy has says no, William does not have this. That is exactly how a block is working. You cannot be able to take it away. If you have 500, everyone knows that you have 500. So you cannot sell 501. That is what the transaction is going to be. So that if it is for example, if it is milk, you pick 5 liters and another 10 liters somewhere, and then 20 liters somewhere, and at the total you picked 600 liters. There is no way you are going to sell 700 liters, yet the transactions are saying that you only picked 600. That transaction will be invalid. That is why the transactions have to be validated. Are we clear to that fact? So these validated records now have to be grouped into blockchain, into a block. So a block is not data. A block is evidence. So a block is not data. It is evidence of the data. William is trying to sell me 600, yet he has 500. So a block will say, no, it is not valid, because you do not have enough. That is why today you cannot be able to send more money when you do not have. That is how that is a blockchain in simple terms, because it understands like the transaction. Your M-Pesa, for example, understands that your balance is 500. So there is no way you can sell 600. You can sell 600, yet the transaction is 500. Not unless you have a debt deficit. So that means unaenda kwa fuliza, which also it has to know that you have what balance in fuliza, so that as you send, it understands. So in simple terms, you cannot be able to do anything. Even if you cheated, if William cheated and tells me I may change M-Pesa balance, akanitumia akaniambia angalia niko na half a million, Even if he wants to send me anything more than what he has, it cannot happen because it is cryptographically signed. Hello? So a block is just evidence. How to understand that a block is evidence? So I want you to put evidences in every value chain, everything at the farmer level. Kama mkulima ako na ng'ombe mbili na hiyo ng'ombe mbili natoa lita 10, hakuna vile huyo mkulima atauza lita 30 because it is not acceptable. That means kuna kitu amefanya hapo, amecheza karata, labda ameongeza maji. That is when now we are saying we can be able to get rid of adulteration if we bring up the aspect of technology, because we understand that this farmer can only produce this amount. When he gives to the transporter, we know the transporter picks how many these are 600 liters. So by the time it comes to the cooperative, for example, at the cooling plant, that transporter cannot bring 700 yet it picks 600. It's not possible. That is when we say this one is wrong. And then we put mechanisms of banalizing them. So in so doing, that person understands as hii nikichukua 500 huko kwa cooperative wana expect nikwe na 500. That is how blockchain is. The farmer knows, the transporter knows, the cooling plant knows, the transporter knows, the processor knows. And all these records are one. Even the processor understands that so and so produced 10 liters today. So when he's paying, he can pay so and so directly because he understands that this is the records of this farmer. The transporter knows that this farmer has been producing this. Instead of the manual records we've been keeping, it is now automated. And these systems are already there. I know some of the people who are in the dairy industry could understand that these days there is a system in which the moment you measure milk from a farmer level, and then it is recorded via Bluetooth and then transported directly to the cooperative. The cooperative can be able to say that this farmer has given so and so 5 liters. So by the time this person comes, we are just confirming. But the record is already there. That is what exactly a block is all about. It is evidence. So a block is a confirmed food system record. A confirmed record. The moment this farmer has 5 liters na imepimwa na transport na imekubalika that this farmer has only 5 liters, then it is confirmed. When you've confirmed that and the other farmer has confirmed, you see, it is peer-to-peer. That means William, Stephen, Tracy, Eric, and Fred and Felix are a group of farmers. All of them have to agree that here William is 5, here Stephen is 10, here Tracy is 15, here Eric is 3, here Felix is this amount. So you all agree. Once you have agreed and confirmed that that is true, then that can be written in a block, because a block is simply the evidence that this is what you're having. So a block could be, for example, what we are having in the food industry at the moment as page records. Let me ask someone here. Basic of Korean. Daisy.
Yes, yes,
Mambo.
Papa.
Do you know what a patch number is, or about a patch is? Let me just ask what a batch. Right?
Okay.
Yes? Yes, Daisy.
Maybe I can give an example of a patch. For instance, when a production is running, you can produce, let's say, a patch of certain product. Meaning, maybe a patch can run for a certain period of time, like let's say 1 hour, or maybe from the ingredients. Ingredients, like for instance, some ingredients come with a certain type. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's give this first a round of applause. That is what exactly a batch is. Like that group, like from maybe that if you are doing 500 liters per batch, then that 500 liters is a particular batch. So that batch, the record that you keep under that batch is what exactly a block could be like. For example, in the block or in that batch, it could be the if you are dealing with farmers, it could be the harvest date. Labda ni mahindi, useme hii mahindi, this was the date that is this maize was harvested. Number two, this is the farmer, the name of the farmer or the name of the farm that produced this maize. These are the people who are dealing with the maize. These are the people who have been handling the maize from the beginning to this point. And number four, these are the parameters of the maize in terms of maybe, for example, the moisture content, the temperature, the grade, whichever records you are giving, quality parameters you are checking. So these are the records. So these are the things that now are recorded in a block. So when you hear blockchain, whatever is in a block is records, the evidence. So harvest date, that is the date. We can even have evidence that this is the date that we harvested. This is the farm that we bring the produce. This is who have been handling. Because as it moves from one person to the other, there should be signing. And when you move, you say, this is what I picked. These are the parameters I picked with. So that in case you are giving me something with a different parameter, then probably I'll send a phone. For example, when we are importing products, for example, from Tanzania to Kenya, at the border, we need to make some records that this product is this is how it is, the characteristic of the product, the date, the handler, the parameters. So that as we move it into the country, we can be able to know that at the point of dispatch, these were the parameters. At the point of entry to the country, these were the parameters. At the point of reception, another records. So all those are different blocks. The first block was at the production level. The second block was at the transport when the farmer handed over to the transporter. The third block is when the transporter handed over to the maybe to the aggregator. And the other one is when the aggregator passes over to the processor. Those are different blocks. And these blocks have to be linked together. That is why every time the moisture content which was there at the farm level, and then the moisture content, or okay, the aflatoxin levels that were there at the farm level, plus the aflatoxin level that was there during transportation, plus the aflatoxin record that was received, have to read the same. Because if they don't, then that says that is invalid. That means something somewhere along the way, there was some tampering that happened along the way. And that is what exactly blockchain technology is all about. So these ones, I assume a block as patch records. So before we go to characteristics of a block, we need to understand what a block, how blocks look like. So the first block, we have, for example, in the first picture, I don't know if you can be able to see the picture. Thumbs up. The screen. There are three pictures there. I want us to concentrate on the second picture. This one. This is the first one. This is the second one. And this one down here is the third one. Let's start with the one in green. The first one. So we have three things that a block carries. I need to understand blockchain now. We are coming closer to what blockchain is all about. So the first thing is the block carries data, the transactions, the records. So that is the data. Everything that you've been doing, data. If you, for example, when you receive a product, those quality parameters and all that, those are data. You keep them online. Those are data. So that is one thing that the things has. Number two, it has a hash. A hash is like a unique identity for that block. And then it has a hash of the previous block. Those are three things: data, hash, and the hash of the previous block. For example, I want us to read to see the second picture. Block 1, block 2, block 3. These three are linked. But I want you to see the hash. For example, the previous hash is 000, which we refer to as the Genesis Act. Like, this is the new thing these are new block we are starting from scratch. There's never been any other block we can be able to link it. And this is probably from the farm level or the production level where you cannot be able to trace it back. You say this is the Genesis. You are trying to start the blocks. So when you ask of the previous hash, when you don't have, you just generate it at 000, which is referred to as the Genesis block. And then now that unique hash that it is carrying for this block 1, maybe I should ask someone to read for me. Esther, are you in a position 2? Can you see the hash of the block 1?
Yes, I can.
Is there a difference between hash of block 1 and the previous hash of block 2?
Yes, there's a difference.
What's the difference?
Should I read the letters, the initials?
Yes, the hash of block 1. How do you get the question? Eh? Hash of block 1. Can you see that?
Yes.
Previous hash of block 2.
Previous, yes.
Is there a difference?
Yes, there's a difference.
Can you read for us?
Okay, hash for block 1 is 6U9P2. Hash for block 2 is 8Y5C9.
I'm talking about the previous hash of block 2.
Okay, I don't get it.
You see this one?
I don't get
the one
it.
I've circled in red.
That is okay.
Can you see the previous hash is similar to the hash of block 1?
I am lost. I don't get it.
All right. Let's get to the other person first, and then we explain. Grace. Sarah. Let me start with Sarah, and then I come to Grace. Sarah. Sarah Nani. All right. Kennedy. I want someone to speak to me if there is any difference.
Yeah, there's no difference. I've seen it.
You've seen it. There is no difference.
No, there's hash and there's previous hash.
Yes, these two.
So the hash for block 1 and the previous hash for block 2, they are similar.
And then the hash of block 2 is unique. And the previous hash of block 3 is now the hash of block 2. I want you to see the lower table. Let's go to the lower image so that at least I can be able to explain. First, there is a previous hash, which is the Genesis block. So the Genesis block is 000. So there has not been any other block before. And then now the hash, I want you to see the cycle in green and the other one cycle in green. And now they have been linked. The hash of block 1 is the previous hash of block 2. The hash of block 2 is now becoming the previous hash of block 3. Can you see the link? Anyone, a thumbs up if you can see the link. And thumbs down if you, it's okay not to know. William, not William. Zara, go ahead. I don't know if I can hear you now. You are still on mute.
No, I'm okay now. I'm okay.
Yeah. Have you seen how they are linked?
Yeah.
That the hash of block 1 becomes the previous hash of the next block. And the hash of block 2 becomes the previous hash of block 3. So we just know that we have 3 things we need to keep in a block: the data, the hash, and the previous hash. And you see, if for example, someone wants to change, for example, block 3, they want to change the previous hash. If you change that, then the rest of the others change completely. Back a mwisho. Because it will read invalid. So there is no way you can change the previous hash in block 3. For example, there is no way you can change your previous balance before you send. At the, for example, you have 500 shillings. That is the balance. So if I use 50 bob, then the balance becomes 450. Because it is 500 minus 50, then it is 450. So there is no way you will now at point 3 want to use to send 480. Yet your balance is 450. That is, you are trying to change the previous flow. You are trying to change the balance. There is no way you can change balance. If you started with 50 liters, if Farmer A brought 50 liters, Farmer B 50, Farmer C 50, that is 150. There is no way at the point when you are submitting the milk, you are saying it is 200. You are trying to change the previous block because it will say it is invalid because that it does not tally with the previous block. Until you correct that, then that transaction can be recorded. Without that, it cannot be recorded. Hello? Are we together in that far? Thank you. Let me give you the characteristics of a block. One, a block contains data, the transactions, the events, the records. All that are the data that we are going to talk about. For example, the name of the farmer, who the previous, okay, let's talk about the transporter. When a transporter makes a record, he says, I picked this milk from farmer A. This milk has this amount. This is the amount. That is the record. This is the quality parameters of that milk. This is what, like, you record the transaction and the data. Even if you make some payment, you record the payment. That is what you refer to as data. Number 2, it has cryptographic hash. This cryptographic hash is a password. Ni kama unajaribu kuchange password, hakuna venye utachange password. The previous password has to inafaa kufanana na next. Na hivyo. So it is cryptographic hash of the previous block. That means the hash of the previous block. If it is the first block, it is 000, which we refer to as the Genesis block. Number 3, a block has its own unique hash. That is a digital fingerprint. This is a unique identity for that block. Number 4, it is time stamped. That means this transaction happened at this time. Number 5, once you've added that record, it cannot be altered without detection. It is what we refer to, it is immutable. It becomes immutable. It becomes unchangeable. Because the moment you want to change yours, you cannot go to change Sarah's. You cannot go and change the one for Esther. You cannot go and change the one for Daisy. Because all these are linked together. So there is no way you can be able to change the transactions once done. The moment umechukua 5 liters, hakuna vile hiyo maziwa itachange ikuwe 10. No way. It cannot accept. That is a characteristic of a block. And that's what block is all about in terms of blockchain. Sorry. So, what blockchain, why blockchain actually matters, especially in our context. And that's why we are moving closer to now blockchain and food safety, blockchain and supply chain, blockchain and certification, and several other things. Number one, in the food safety sector or subsector, fake compliance is the pain point. That is the main problem. Fake compliance. Because you want to say you are complying, yet indeed you are not. The trap, fake records, fraud, and the blockchain brings what we refer to as immutability in terms of the records. You cannot be able to change, because imagine this thing is linked to 1,000 computers. So if you have to change, you need to go to every computer to change before you and once you have changed that, you go again to change the second one. And then you go and change the third one. It is impossible for you to do that. And remember, these chains are linked together. So from the point it started, things are linking. Maybe from January to December, you are in December. And the block you are developing in December is linked to the one which you developed in January. So it is impossible for you to change. That's why immutable records is a value proposition that blockchain brings to food safety. In the supply chains, the biggest problem is the traceability. We cannot trace where these things came from. And what that brings, it brings an end-to-end visibility. You can be able to see how the things flow. I was telling you that everyone in the value chain has the records. So from the processor to the cooling plant to the transporter to the farmer, their records are same. When a transaction happens, all the transaction is linked to all the records. I want you to assume, for example, you are having a book library. And in this book, there's a particular book we are currently reading. So if you're having that book you are reading, for example, as I pick the book from the library or from amongst ourselves, maybe we are four. Maybe, for example, William, Sarah, Esther, and Kennedy. William, Sarah, Esther, and Kennedy. So William, Sarah, Esther, and Kennedy. So the book William has, that is the first block. William has the book. Now, Sarah needs to take the book. So what does he do? Sarah writes, William says, I've handed over the book to Sarah. Anaandika ni siku gani, kitabu gani, na Sarah anafanya nini? Anasign. So you tell me, what is the time? Who amechukua? Ni nani amechukua? Sarah. Saa ngapi date? And then Sarah signs that it is true that I have taken. Now Sarah reads the book and wants to transfer it to Esther. So it moves from William. Sarah now says, I have transferred the book to Esther. This is the date I transferred. And Sarah and Esther signs that true, I have received the book. Esther reads the book and then goes back, and Kennedy asks for the book. Kennedy says, Sarah writes, Esther writes, I've transferred the book to Kennedy. This is the date, this is the name of the book, and Kennedy signs. So every time I want to know who has the book. William, the only thing you will do is to go to the records and say, where is this book? So when you get the book, you see the book is with Kennedy. But if you want to know how the book has moved, before it reaches to Kennedy, Esther signed. You see? Before it reaches to Esther, Sarah signed. And before it reaches to Sarah, William had it. So you can be able to see the transaction. So the moment you want to change, for example, you want to change that you do not have the book, then you have to go to Esther's record and change it again. Then you go to Sarah and change it. And then you go to William and change it. So it's going to be impossible for you to make any changes. That's why we say it is immutable. In certification, the pain point is credibility erosion. We are eroding the credibility of certification. How does blockchain comes in? It brings what it refers to as verifiable credentials because it cannot be recorded without verifying. Under finance, the pain point is reconciliation delays. It is so hard to reconcile. We are filing tax, we are filing returns here and there. The blockchain say it's a single source of truth. Like blockchain is one source that gives you the truth. There is no delay. It is like when the balance is just instant. But imagine, for example, William, you are given 100,000, and then at the end of the month, you are asked to do what? To reconcile. So first, you need to go and check nilitumia tarehe mbili ngapi, tarehe tatu ngapi. It becomes very hard. That is why, whenever there is every time the bank sends you balances, kunakuwa na venye hiyo pesa inakuja ikipunguza ukiongezeka every time. So like you have the balance every time. There is the current balance and the previous balance. So unajua jana nilikuwa na ngapi, hii leo opening balance, closing balance, opening balance, closing balance. Ukifungua siku ilikuwa hii, ukifunga siku ilikuwa hii. That is, if you want to know the balance, you just go to the last transaction and see the balance. It's a single source of truth. Government, the biggest risk is corruption. How does blockchain comes in to solve corruption? It brings about transparency. The moment you try to do corruption, it is detected in the value chain and you are flagged off immediately. So this is how technology is coming in to support everything. But what's a chain? Because you're talking about a block. But now what's a chain? Because it's blockchain. A chain is a sequence or a chronological history of events. A chain is chronological history of events. For this case, food system events. What happened from point A to point B to point C to point D? So there is block 1, block 2, block 3. In between here are what we refer to as chains, which brings about the history. If I have to know the history, I go to block 3. Block 3 has the hash of block 2. Block 2 has the hash of block 1. If we are in block 900, you just know that there are 900 transactions that happen. And each of that has a block of has the previous hash of the previous block. Blockchain is powerful because it preserves the sequence, not just the data. So you cannot be able to alter the system. You cannot be able to move from 1 to 5. Hapa itakuuliza where is 3 and where is 4. So it has to follow a chronological order. It will be sequence, without which becomes invalid. So it has to keep the data, which is cryptographically signed. That means the data are hidden. Only the person that's meant to read that is able to do that. Hello? Tuko pamoja? Thumbs up if we are still together. Yeah. Let me show you in simple terms how a blockchain works. A transaction is requested. That is step number 1. A transaction is requested. Number 2, a block representing that transaction is created. So this is a computer. That means you request it online. So you say, William, I want you to send me 500 shillings. You want to do the transactions with William. So we are linked with Stephen, we are linked with Esther, we are linked with Felix. So Ruto wants to get some money from William. So that is a transaction that is being requested. Number 2, what happens? A block representing that transaction is created. And you know that the block has 3 things. You know that. The first thing, it will have its own unique identity, the hash. Number 2, the hash of the previous block. That means the balances in William Akonayo before he transfers it to me. I should be able to know. That is the previous hash. And then the data. That is who is sending. You are sending it to who? So for example, William is sending to me, to Ruto, and then how much? Choice, I don't know what do I do to choice. Sarah, can I recommend you request choice to be able to join? Let me see if I can help. Good. So we continue. So I was saying, you need to give the data. Who is sending? That is William. Who is receiving? Ruto. How much? And the time. So what happens? A block is sent to every node in the network. That means a block is sent to first Felix, another one to Esther, another one to Steven, to verify whether the transaction is true. What happens? Then these are the nodes now, which, for example, the Felix, the Esther, the Steven, and the rest are what we refer here as nodes. So Felix anaangalia, anasema William akona pesa ngapi? Is it possible to send? Anasema kweli, he validates that. Esther anaangalia, anavalidate. Steven anaangalia, anavalidate. Joyce anaangalia, anavalidate. Who else? Chepkori Daisy anaangalia, anavalidate. Once they are validated, hao wanafaa kulipwa. Each of them has to be paid for doing the validation. It is not easy. Not validate the transaction and receive a reward for proof of work. Now, Felix anasema ni kweli Steven, ni kweli William anaweza tuma 500 to Ruto. So the moment anasema hivyo, analipwa yake. Esther analipwa yake. In most cases, I think it's about for Bitcoin, it's about $20. Each person has to gain about $20 for proving the work. Hapo ndio mnasikiaga watu wengine wanafanyaga Bitcoin sijui nini. Hizo ndio vitu wanafanya. Somebody is there just to validate the transactions. And for validating transactions, you are paid for that. So the nodes validate and reward, and they are rewarded for proof of work. Once it's done and it is validated, the block is now added to the existing blockchain, and the transaction is complete. So that is why you see now there was transaction ilikuwa imefanyika ikakuwa validated, ya pili ikakuwa validated, ya tatu ikakuwa validated, in the new transaction inakuja, and the moment that block is validated, it is added to the previous block. Na ikikuwa added hivyo, ile balance ya William inapungua, yangu inaongezwa. So next time William wants to send money and he doesn't have enough, so it cannot be validated. So Esther atasema it is not possible for William to send. Jepkor anasema it is not possible. Stephen anasema it's not possible. That means it becomes invalid. So there's nothing William can be able to send, because the peers are saying it's not possible. So maybe before we end this class today, because I just wanted to introduce blockchain. Then now in our next class, we'll be able to link up blockchain and food systems, because you have to understand first what blockchain is, and then now we combine it with food system. But we need to understand the different types of blockchains and which one is best for us as food scientists and what is best for the sector that we support. So there are 4 types of blockchains. Sometimes we say 3 main, because hybrid sometimes is not recorded as a main type of blockchain, but we have 3 mains. The first one is public blockchain. Second one, private blockchain. Third one, consortium blockchain. Number 4, hybrid blockchain. These are 4 blockchains that we are having in the system or available. So I want us to discuss each and every one of them. But this, in broad terms, this is what all of them is. Public, as the word public, like as you hear the word public, it is like everyone can be able to join that, like that blockchain. Everyone is open for the general public. There is no restrictions. It is open for everyone. So the strength of that public blockchain is maximum transparency and censorship resistant. That means everyone is like, it is very transparent. There is no point of that, yo, this one is wrong, this one, no. It is maximum transparency is there. The key problem or the biggest problem with public is it is slow, costly, and weak regulatory fit. Because slow, because imagine if there are 1,000 people in that blockchain, everyone has to validate before a transaction is made. Let me just take you through public. So open, permissionless, you don't need permission, you just join. Permissionless networks where anyone can participate and verify the records. Anyone. So highly transparent, strong trust, that is without central authority. For this one, it has also its own limitation. That is, it is the key limitation is slow transactions because of the wide network of people. Number two is high energy and operational cost, because it takes a lot of time to validate one thing, and that is why it's very costly. Number three, limited regulatory alignment, because how do you regulate something that everyone can join? Like, there's no regulation, so limited regulatory alignment. The agri-food relevance is useful for global transparency and proof of existence, but rarely practical for day-to-day food supply chains across. And a good example is Bitcoin. Bitcoin. Bitcoin is like anyone can buy Bitcoin. Anyone can buy Ethereum. So these ones are what referred to as the public blockchains. So Bitcoin uses public blockchain. So public blockchain is open for anyone. It is slow, and sometimes it is very true. Like, in terms of transparency, is very high. You cannot buy blockchain when you don't have money. Bitcoin when you don't have money. That is what you refer to as Bitcoin mining. Mining is the aspect of now being able to validate. So unasikia watu wanafanya Bitcoin mining, the only thing they are doing is what you refer to as proof of work, evidence that this is valid. So they're like, somebody just seated somewhere, kazi yake ni ku validate transaction. That was public blockchain. Is that clear? Is public blockchain clear to everyone? And if you have a question or you need a clarification, let me know. And these are some of the things we'll be discussing back to Elewani. This is a 5-series class, masterclass. Private blockchain, the second one. It is closed, permissioned blockchain controlled by a single organization. This has on the camera, for example, your company wants to keep a blockchain by themselves. So you need permissions before you join that block. And it is controlled by one organization. The key strength is it is fast and scalable. Remember, when you are doing internal audits, private blockchain could work, because you just need to go and look for evidence in the other department, like with the departmental audits and the internal audits. Private blockchain will work perfectly. And that is what exactly is coming now to the food science space. But those are things we are going to discuss as we move forward. The key strengths: fast and scalable, strong data privacy. Because the other one was open, it's public, open for everyone. This one, the data is private. So you've kept the data so private, so there's no point of change which can happen, or your data breach. Easier integration with internal systems. So there is an easier integration with the internal systems. The limitation to this is centralized trust. So you can only be trusted by yourself. Not external people cannot trust you with that. Like ile audit yenye mnajifanyiaga internal audit, do you think a regulator can come and use that audit to do anything? No, because they believe that it might have some biasness. So it is centralized trust. And we are talking about decentralization. Number two, high risk of data manipulation, because it is controlled by a single organization, so it can be manipulated. Number three, low external credibility. There is no external credibility, because as an external body, I cannot trust that you are able to do it perfectly on your own. So I needed somebody from outside to come and confirm that whatever you did is actually what it is. And the relevance is best suited for internal operations, such as internal audits, internal inventory records, and compliance documentation. Inventory records, those are some of the things you have in your organizations. If it has to go digital, private blockchain could work. Internal audits, private blockchain works, because it is just evidence across the internal evidence, so that even as you do those evidence in the quality department, the person in production, the person in marketing, and the person in top management can be able to see and trust what you are giving them. So that is private blockchain. Is that clear? Thumbs up if that is clear. Private blockchain. The third one is hybrid blockchain, which is not a common blockchain per se, but it's a blend of public and private. That means some data is public, some sensitive data remains private. And this, I know most of you have been able to see that. Like, you can be able to access some of the things, but other things you cannot be able to access. Key strength is balance of transparency and confidentiality. Like, you balance transparency. Yes, you want to open, you be transparent, but you also need to be confidential in a nature. There are some things, sensitive information to know how to pass. Lower cost than public blockchains. It is slightly lower cost. Customable or customizable access control. Like, you can be able to customize the access. And that is where some of the things are referred to as the smart contracts comes up. Smart contract is an example of hybrid blockchain, but we are going to deal with smart contracts and the rest of the things as we move forward. But the limitation of this, the limitation of the hybrid blockchain is governance complexity, trust dependence, depends on managing organizations, and limited participation incentives. So there is no incentive per se, or no, like, if I participate, this is what you are going to benefit. So no clear incentives for participation. But in agri-food sector, it's useful for regulators, for buyers, for consumers. That needs visibility, but commercial data must be protected, e.g. export supply chains. You want to say you are exporting, but you don't want to tell us you are exporting to who, because if you give us what you are exporting to who and where they are located, I can easily bypass you and export to them also. So you're keeping some secrets, slight secrets, but you are open in such a way. But the best blockchain to use in our sector, or for us to use, is what we refer to as consortium blockchain. Consortium blockchain, if you miss the other, all the others, don't miss this. Consortium blockchain is a permissioned blockchain governed by multiple organizations. Hello. First, you need permission. Number two, it is governed by multiple organizations. That means there is shared trust across the institution. I trust you, you trust me, we trust the other partner, and we trust the other one. So, for example, the farmer trusts the transporter, and the transporter trusts the cooperative trusts the processor. Like, all of us, the farmer, the transporter, the cooperative, and the processor, in the market, we trust one another. And when we trust one another, we are governing a particular blockchain. That means we are sharing trust. I trust that every one of us will be able to do their work as best as possible. Even though the records will be shared amongst us, I trust as the transporter picks, he's not going to lie. The cooperative is not going to lie. So that if we are going to pay incentive, all the incentive will move from the processor to the cooperative, to the transporter, back to the farmer. All of it, everyone will benefit. So it's a win-win-win situation. And it's faster than public blockchain. Very fast. And number 3, decentralized governance without full openness. Like, there is no one who governs that. It is decentralized governance. Or there is governance, but governance is not at the highest point. But anyone within the blockchain can be able to do the governing aspects of this. So it brings about what referred to as the full openness. This is a best fit model for agri-food systems because we have farmer cooperatives, we have processors, transporters, regulators, certification bodies. These people have to develop a trust. And all of this one develops a particular thing, for example, a blockchain, that the moment something moves from the farmer through the cooperative, through the processor, through the export, through the regulatory bodies and certification bodies, there is great assurance that this product is truly the best. Because it is ideal for traceability. It's ideal for ensuring food safety and trade compliance. So this is a very good model that we need to really work on. But I have to still give some good more points on why consortium blockchains work best in the agri-food sector. Number 1, there is multiple actors must trust shared data. That means multiple actors must trust the data. If I don't trust the data, because farmers, processors, exporters, regulators have to trust the data. Because all of them, they are going there as a team. The farmer, everything the farmer does, the regulator knows. For example, the moment the farmer says, I'm having 50 liters selling to the cooperative, the regulator takes that as a point. The other farmer does the thing, the regulator takes it up. At the end of it all, when the regulator says, for example, we are having 5.2 billion liters daily, or 5.2 million liters daily, it's something that can be trusted because the farmer gave the record. The processor has the same record. The exporter has the same record. And the regulator has the same record. And no single institution should control the ledger. The transactions cannot be controlled by somebody, one person. It has a shared responsibility. It is faster, it is cheaper, and governable at the sector level. So as we move forward now towards how blockchain and food science works together, or blockchain in food systems, with the examples on how blockchain is coming up, with how regulations are being governed towards blockchain, I want you to have in mind that the best blockchain is the consortium blockchain. And that is what we are going to be discussing as we move forward. So those are the points of discussions that we need to be discussing. But before we did that discussion, it was important for us to understand what blockchain is. That is a shared, like it's a digital ledger that has a cryptographically signed transaction that are grouped in blocks, and each block is linked to the other block to provide what we refer to as a blockchain. Ladies and gentlemen, up to this point, it gives me a point to relax and say, let us digest whatever we have talked about blockchain. And in our next class, we now discuss the relevance of blockchain in food systems and how blockchain comes to food science, because it was not possible for me to discuss blockchain and food science the same time today. So I had to first do what? Discuss what blockchain is, and then now link the blockchain with food science in our next class. And in our next class, it's going to be completely free for all of you because it's a continuation of this class. And that means we are going to do that class somewhere next week. So as you say, I'm proposing we do it around Friday. So I'll be wishing to for you to tell me next week Friday it is the Valentine's Eve. Huh? No, this is the Valentine's Nile week. That is next week. Let me just check my calendar. Just a moment. So that as I give you an opportunity to speak, you are speaking from point of information. The 20th, today is 10th. That means on 20th, we come and deal with the blockchain and food science combined now. Now, the blockchain and food systems together. So today we have understood what blockchain technology is and what blockchain is in general. Then, now, let's see blockchain in food systems. So in the next class is talking about blockchain food system, blockchain food system, blockchain value chain. So that at least you can be able to understand now how blockchain is coming in to shape the food industry as a whole. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings me to the end of today's masterclass, but opens me, gives me an opportunity to give you an opportunity to tell me what you think of this class and what you anticipate in the classes that comes. So first, give yourself a quick round of applause for being here and appreciate yourself that indeed you are able to be here. So allow me to first stop presenting and be able to speak to you directly. And I'm going to use an alphabetical order so that we can be able to, sorry, so that we can be able to have everyone's point of view as we continue. So as usual, I'm recording all your thoughts. If there is any recommendation you want to make, feel free to make the recommendation, because as surely as you can be sure of, I'm going to do exactly that. Even what you expect in the next class, you can be able to mention. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to start officially the comment section. And I request that all of you do not leave the class so that at least I can have because there is part of marking the register also, because I write down all your names and what you think of today's class. And I'm going to start with Chip Korir Daisy. Daisy. Yes, Daisy.
So the class has been nice. We have plans and we expect more of this. Yes. So thank you for your time. Have a nice evening.
Thank you so much, Daisy. Thank you so much, Daisy. Let's give Daisy a quick round of applause. Big round of applause for Daisy. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your presence, Daisy, and looking forward to continued participation in the class across. Thank you so much. Deborah Chepkemoi.
Hi, Onesmus.
Hi, Deborah. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate that I wasn't able to join in the class because I had a different accelerator program with some investors. So